Have you ever wondered why you never see a baguette wearing a Mountie hat? Well, there's a good reason for that. You see, it's not that our elongated French bread friends have a specific aversion to the iconic Canadian headgear, it's just that the two have never really crossed paths. Until now. I know, you're probably wondering, what on earth do baguettes have to do with Canada? Well, let's just say it's not all maple syrup and hockey up there. It's a question that's been needing an answer for quite some time. Why should we ban baguettes from Canada? It's a query that has the potential to rise, much like the dough of our contentious bread, to the top of international debate. In the heart of Paris, a baguette is as common as a beret or a bicycle. It's a staple, a part of the French identity, but in Canada, not so much. Now, this isn't to say that Canadians don't appreciate a good loaf of bread. Oh, they do, but when it comes to baguettes, things get a bit crumbly. Now, I'm not here to spread any yeast of doubt or to butter you up with some half-baked theories. We'll be delving into the heart of this crusty conundrum, examining the doughy details, and hopefully, by the end of this journey, we'll have sliced through the mystery like a hot knife through butter. From the wheat fields of Saskatchewan to the patisseries of Quebec, from the political corridors of Ottawa to the bustling bakeries of Montreal, we'll be exploring every nook and cranny of this peculiar predicament, and who knows, we might just find that the issue is not as black and white as it seems. It's a tale that involves politics, culture, and yes, even a sprinkle of humor. So buckle up, dear viewers, as we embark on this wild ride to unravel the crusty truth about baguettes and Canada. Now, what could possibly be the problem with French baguettes in the land of maple syrup and ice hockey, you may wonder? Well, pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of tea, and brace yourself for the crusty conundrum that is rocking the Great White North. Firstly, let's tackle the issue of Canadian wildlife. You see, our feathered friends, the Canadian geese, have developed an insatiable appetite for these elongated loaves of French bread. The geese have become so accustomed to feasting on the baguettes that they've turned their beaks up at their natural diet. We're not just talking about a few disgruntled ducks here, folks. Entire flocks are now refusing to eat anything but baguettes. It's a full-blown foie gras situation in reverse. And it's not just the geese. The squirrels, those cheeky little acrobats of the trees, have also been seen hauling baguettes up to their treetop homes. Imagine, if you will, a squirrel trying to balance a baguette that's twice its size on a thin branch. It's a sight to behold, I assure you. Now, onto the domestic front. It seems that the baguettes, with their unruly length and girth, are causing quite a bit of trouble in Canadian kitchens. Picture this. You're trying to make a sandwich, but your bread is so long it won't fit on the counter. You try to store it, but it's too long for your bread box. You attempt to slice it, but it's so crusty your knife can't handle it. It's a culinary catastrophe. And let's not even get started on the environmental impact. The production of these French loaves is causing a surge in flour consumption, leading to an increased demand for wheat, which in turn puts a strain on the Canadian farming industry. Yes, my friends, the humble baguette, with its crusty exterior and fluffy interior, is causing quite the stir in Canada. Now, you must be thinking, surely the Canadians are not serious about this baguette ban, but I assure you the stakes have never been higher. The doughy dilemma is real, and it's rising faster than a fresh batch of sourdough in a baker's oven. Now, some of you may be wry-gitfully puzzled. What's the big deal about a bit of bread, you might ask? Well, let me enlighten you. In the heartland of Canada, baguettes have been deemed as a symbol of, wait for it, excessive elongation. Yes, you heard that right. The Canadians have come to view these lengthy loaves as a blatant affront to their beloved round buns and square toasts. You see, in the world of Canadian bread politics, size does matter. A baguette's audacious length has caused quite the stir, leading some to question whether it should even be classified as bread. After all, when was the last time you saw a sandwich made with a baguette? Exactly. It's simply too long to be practical. Furthermore, there's a rumor that the baguettes are planning a takeover. They're lining up, ready to roll out, and Canadians are worried that their traditional breads will be left in the dust. The baguette, with its crunchy exterior and soft, airy interior, is simply too tempting for some to resist. But the real fear, the real doughy dilemma, is that the baguette, with its French origins, is an undercover agent for the French, seeking to subtly influence Canadian culture. The baguette, they fear, is a Trojan horse, a wheaty weapon of cultural infiltration. So while the rest of the world enjoys their baguettes without a second thought, Our friends in the north are engaged in a full-blown bread battle. It's a glutinous war, my friends, and the humble baguette is at the center of it all. So it seems the baguette, in all its long, crusty glory, has become Canada's most wanted bread. So how exactly does one go about banning a bread, especially one as popular as the baguette? Well, it's a tall order, like trying to banish butter from a bakery or tea from a British afternoon. But let's tackle this with our tongues firmly in our cheek, shall we? First, we'd need to convince the Canadian government of the urgent need to ban baguettes. Now, this may sound like a daunting task, but it's all in the approach. Perhaps we could propose a new bill, the Breadstick over Baguette Act, or BOBA for short. Now, who wouldn't want to support an act with such a delightful acronym? This bill would outline the dangers of baguettes, their crusty exterior that can scratch the roof of your mouth, the way they hog up valuable toaster space, and let's not forget the risk of using them as impromptu swords in a food fight. Once the bill is presented, it would need to pass through several stages of debate and voting, both in the House of Commons and the Senate. We could imagine lengthy discussions about the environmental impact of baguette production or the socio-economic implications on the French-Canadian community. The next step would be enforcing the ban. This might involve the creation of a new governmental department. Let's call it the Department of Bread Regulation and Enforcement, or BREAD for short. The bread agents would work tirelessly to ensure that no baguettes make it past our borders, conducting rigorous checks at all points of entry, and perhaps even employing sniffer dogs trained to detect that distinct scent of freshly baked French bread. And what about the punishment for smuggling baguettes? Perhaps a hefty fine, or better yet, mandatory attendance at a month-long bread-making course where the only recipe taught is for gluten-free, vegan, and most importantly, baguette-free bread. And that, dear viewers, is how you ban a bread. Take notes, folks. Now let's wrap up this tasty tale of bread, bans, and baguettes. We've journeyed through the crusty conundrum that is the baguette's dominion over Canada, and dipped our toes in the doughy dilemma that has been kneading at our conscience. We've explored the ban on baguettes, and now we arrive at the final crust of our journey. Let's break this down one last time, like a baker kneading dough in the early morning. We've seen the havoc these elongated loaves have wreaked on Canadian society, from the buttery battles in the breakfast nooks of Nova Scotia to the crusty confrontations in the cafes of Calgary. We've laughed at the absurdity of a man trying to fit a full-size baguette into a standard toaster. We all chuckled when we imagined the scene of a Montrealer attempting to smuggle a baguette under a hockey jersey. These humorous moments, my friends, were all in good fun, but they were also poignant reminders of the crux of our discussion. The baguette ban, as we've seen, is no laughing matter. It's a necessary step to preserve the quintessential Canadian way of life, a life that values the round, robust nature of a good old-fashioned loaf over the intimidating length of a French baguette, a life that appreciates the simplicity of a sandwich that fits perfectly in your hand rather than one that requires a roadmap to navigate. It's not just about bread, it's about what we value as a society. It's about not letting foreign loaves dictate how we butter our bread, or slice it for that matter. So, as we continue to grapple with the ramifications of the baguette ban, let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. Let's remember that this is about more than just our daily bread. It's about preserving our Canadian identity one slice at a time. And remember, folks, if you're ever in Canada and find yourself craving a baguette, just remember you're better off with a beaver tail pastry. After all, they're much easier to hide.